At the beginning of the movie, some kids are playing on a pier when the attention is shifted to a nuclear power plant in the background. One of the kids mentions that there's a giant robot inside the reactor tower, while another argues that his brother said that the building is in reality a giant rice cooker that gives their city electricity and will one day make their country rich. One little girl says that her teacher mentioned to her that it's a box that should never be opened. Now in his adulthood, Jae-hyuk, one of the kids, is woken up by his nephew Min-jae. He lives and sleeps inside a small room within a restaurant which his mom and sister-in-law run. He struggles to get up since he's hungover, but is forced to go and eat together with his friends at the table. They all work in the nuclear power plant. While he eats, his girlfriend, Yeon-yo, barges into the restaurant and kicks him in the ankle, asking him if he had been drunk all night long with some random girls. He denies everything, but she tells him to be very cautious. She then says goodbye to his boyfriend's mother and sister-in-law and leaves. Jae-hyuk's friends all joke and laugh with him. When he's done eating, Jae-hyuk goes over to his mom and asks for a day off, but is denied it and told to hurry up and go to work. Some protesters are having a demonstration against the town's nuclear power plant in the middle of a road. A nuclear power plant worker gets out of his vehicle and goes to confront the leader of the protest, telling them to cut it off and move away, and asks the driver of the bus to just drive through them. The leader, in response, makes everybody lay on the floor. After a while, the bus finally manages to make it to its destination. The workers get off the bus and get ready to go to work. Jil-sup, another one of Jae-hyuk's friends, is confronted by his father, who tells him he's a failure and a drunkard. The relationship between the two is not the best, but Jae-hyuk tries to cheer him up. While the workers get ready for their shift, a presentation explaining how a nuclear power plant functions and what it is capable of doing goes on in the background. It is mentioned that their nuclear power plant should be able to resist a magnitude 7 earthquake. After work, Jae-hyuk and his friends are hanging out at a local bar, drinking some beer and talking about how the nuclear power plant affected their lives. Jae-hyuk believes it is only ruining their village, while his friends think that without it, there wouldn't be work. While they talk, Yeon-yo approaches them on a scooter, and Jae-hyuk runs away. But when she falls down when riding her scooter, he looks back. That same night, while Jae-hyuk is fixing her girlfriend's old scooter, he tells her that she should learn to do it on her own in case he's away and can't do it. She gets suspicious and asks him what he's on about. He responds by telling her that he'll be gone for 2 years catching mackerel and squids in South America and Alaska. She gets angry and shouts at him that if she's reliant on him, and only him, since she has no relatives or parent around anymore, and that he will break up with her if he leaves. People start becoming progressively worried about the power plant and its safety. Some complaints and papers reach a government minister, and Pyong-suk, one of the plant's heads, becomes worried as well. Jae-hyuk tells his family about his work desires, but his mother doesn't want him to go. He says that he's doing this just for his nephew, but her mother doesn't believe him, and they argue. His nephew also asks him not to leave, making Jae-hyuk angrier. During the night, a lot of animals run into the water. The next morning, Jae-hyuk's mother and sister-in-law are talking about Jae-hyuk's work life. The mother lost both her husband and other son there, and when Jae-hyuk wanted to open up a shop of his own with his father's death compensation money, he lost it all though, and she believes that he's just a failure. The Prime Minister of Korea and the President have a meeting to talk about the power plant's state. The final consensus is that they should worry about reviving Korea's economy, in spite of the fact that the power plant poses a serious threat. It is also discovered that the report sent to the president was written by Pyong-suk, who gets transferred because that paper got many government officials fired. The morning after the government hearing, Jae-hyuk's town is being hit by a powerful earthquake, which destroys his mother's restaurant and many other buildings. Min-jae gets hit by debris from the collapsing roof. Jae-hyuk, still at the power plant, tries to call his mother, but she doesn't pick up the phone. So he calls Yeon-yo, who responds and tells him that she's already on her way. His sister-in-law arrives to help in the meantime and notices that Min-jae is injured, but at least both him and her mother-in-law are alive. The news finally arrives to a minister, who is told to not report this fact to the president, since he doesn't have time for this. In the meantime, the president and the prime minister are having a meeting about the state of Korean politics and the economy. Back in the power plant, Mr. Park tells the power plant directors that the plant was not in a good state prior to the earthquake at all, and that they should issue Code White and inform the locals. The plant's director, though, orders everybody to go back to working as normal and to not panic. The director then orders to call the head office first. Yeon-yo is helping his family clean up after the earthquake when she receives a call from her boyfriend, asking if everything is okay. She says that everybody is okay and calms him down. And Jae-hyuk's sister-in-law asks if the power plant is fine. Yeon-yo responds that the plant won't be affected by such things and that, should anything happen, they'd receive a message on their phones. The engineers report that the coolant is rapidly leaking and the temperature is raising way too fast. Workers are sent to repair the valves, but while they try to do it, the tubes rupture and they have to run away. Emergency services are called and the senior manager gets rushed out. Jae-hyuk prepares to leave, but his friends all refuse to leave in order to help the other workers inside. President finally gets notified of the disaster, but his prime minister warns him about the dangers of issuing an evacuation order. All the ministers report that the situation is not dire and that the emergency and safety teams will resolve the situation first. In the power plant, the situation is very dire, and Mr. Park takes control of the situation. They need to vent the valves in order to stop the reactor from exploding. The president is finally notified of the gravity of the incident, but is unable to evacuate a meaningful number of civilians, since there are no procedures for this, as it is practically impossible. The president, after some careful consideration, decides to send the evacuation order nonetheless. Everybody's getting evacuated through buses, Jae-hyuk's family included. In the factory, all workers run out as the reactor is going to explode. The engineers in the control room are notified of this, and the doors won't be open to let the workers out. Outside, Gil-sup's father tries to get back inside to help his son. When other officials run out, he runs in. The government is struggling to evacuate the 17,000 civilians around the power plant. Mr. Park orders to open the vents, or else they'll die waiting for the order, but the button doesn't work, so they plan to open them manually. Jae-hyuk finally manages to open the door, but while the workers go out and the engineers force the valves open, the reactor explodes and many die. Jae-hyuk survives though, and goes around looking for survivors. He sees that Young-soo and Jin-taek, his friends, died, but Gil-sup survived. He helps him out since he's stuck, and then sees that his unit leader also is injured. The prime minister orders a perimeter to be set around 10 kilometers away from the power plant to stop any spread of panic and information. The president wouldn't want to do this, but they're forced to. During a press conference, only minimal information is given out by the speaker. In the factory, Gil-sup's father rushes in and sees that his son is alive. In the shelter, Jae-hyuk's family and the rest of the evacuated civilians are told not to worry. On the site of the explosion, Yeon-yo tries to get in, but is stopped. The government decides to pour coolant directly on top of the reactor, and then to connect a cooling source to it once it's possible. Inside, Jae-hyuk is found by another survivor, and all are helped outside, where Jae-hyuk sees his girlfriend and is told by her to go to the shelter. Seeing the mayhem around, even though he's told by everyone else not to go, he stays to help the rest of the people inside. The firefighters move in to cool the reactor. Gil-sup is brought inside a field hospital, where a lot of other wounded slowly and painfully succumb to radiation poisoning. Yeon-yo runs to the shelter and tells everybody that the reactor exploded. She warns her family and everybody inside the shelter to go as far as possible from where they are. But when they try to leave, they're stopped by the police. Phone lines are cut, and nobody can use their phones to connect with the outside world. Inside the power plant, Jin-taek is saved by Jae-hyuk. They rush outside and bring Jin-taek to the firefighters. But when Jae-hyuk tries to run back inside, he collapses on the floor and is helped by the rest of the emergency team. Mr. Park tries to order the emergency unit leaders to pour seawater onto the reactor, since they're all out of water, and they've been ordered not to by the head office. Jae-hyuk is rushed inside the field hospital as well. The Prime Minister is trying his hardest to cover up the damage and not let anybody discover the true measure of the incident. Many firefighters and other personnel are succumbing to radiations. Helicopters and fire trucks are still attempting to cool off the reactor with water, but they're unable to lower the radiation level. Inside the shelter, the police and government officials are all evacuating the building in an attempt to save their own lives, but they're leaving all the civilians behind. Yeon-yo wakes everybody up, and the mob brings down the gates. They all flee towards some buses, and Yeon-yo takes the wheel of hers. Inside the bus, they can see a news channel where the incident is being reported, and everybody comes to understand that the government is trying to cover up everything. All the nearby cities are being evacuated, and Korean citizens flee, creating widespread panic. Even the hospital where Jae-hyuk is in is left to its own. While everybody is panicking and the government loses control of the situation, Jae-hyuk wakes up and immediately rushes to find his uniform and cell phone. He calls his girlfriend and she tells him her situation. As soon as her boyfriend hangs up, Yeon-hyo rushes away on the highway. Public order keeps going down, and the situation becomes increasingly dire. Jae-hyuk desperately wants to leave and go to his family, but he isn't able to leave and is in bad health conditions. The president sits in his office, depressed due to the situation. Her wife walks in and tries to make him act. The president then calls Mr. Park and requests a report. He then barges into the command room and declares martial law. Everybody follows his orders finally, and he shuts down every single nuclear power plant. Seawater will be poured directly onto the reactor, and it will be decommissioned. Inside the plant, a crack is found that, if sealed, will stop the coolant from leaking. On the highway, Jae-hyuk's family and the other that were on the bus get off it to continue by foot. Yeon-hyo calls her boyfriend, but he just tells her to continue walking. The president makes a TV announcement asking for volunteers to go inside the power plant and help the country. Gil-sup calls for everybody in the hospital where he is to stand up and go repair the damage, sacrificing themselves for their loved ones. At first, his idea gets rejected, but then everybody that can walk stands up and prepares to sacrifice their lives. Jae-hyuk calls his girlfriend to tell her, but she begs him not to go in. He will not change his mind though. Yeon-hyo then puts down the phone and tells his mother that he's hurrying up to come with them. Jae-hyuk's family continues to walk on the highway, but radiations get stronger and everybody panics, leading to a stampede and Min-jae being lost by her mother. They all manage to find the child at the end and continue running away. Yeon-hyo calls Jae-hyuk and asks him to just come back alive, even though he can't do so. The power plant workers board the bus to the reactor. They go through their old town, now destroyed by the explosion. They arrive and walk toward their objective. On the highway, Jae-hyuk's mother and sister-in-law get to know that he went inside with the other workers from some other survivors. As the workers fix the leak, everybody around the country watches. The president keeps in contact with Mr. Park. The leak gets wider though, and the work fails. Jae-hyuk thinks of another way to repair the damage: blow up the ceiling and shut the doors, to create another tank and seal the damage. Jae-hyuk volunteers to go inside and blow up the ceiling. He tells the other workers that he'll wait in heaven for them. Before blowing up, the president and Mr. Park give Jae-hyuk some time on live TV to say farewell to his family. He finally says goodbye to his loved ones and weeps for his life, but finally contains himself and is ready to go on with his final duty. He drops the camera in the water and tells everybody to hurry and leave. When everybody is out, he detonates the ceiling and is buried by the debris. The fuel roads are now sealed thanks to his sacrifice. Everybody's life goes on, and the president, together with every Korean citizen, commemorates them.